Okay, let's get started, guys. I want to start walking through the itinerary, and then I'm going to do a quick poll and see where you guys are at. So we're going to start with an overview on ChatGPT, talk about managing risks, because this is a new thing. There are clearly some risks. Before we start jumping in, we need to think about that. Then we're going to go through the different use cases you can use, some of the ones you'll know, some of the ones you may not have thought of yet. And then, a large part of today's session is going to be just live in ChatGPT. The more you want to get out of that, you can ask questions. You could say, Adrian, here's my advert. Can you rewrite it? Anything you want to throw on to chat now, do. Put it on as a question, put it on as a chat and say, Adrian, could you show us how to do this or whatever? It's live. I will, I've got some ideas and stuff I'm going to show you, but I'm also happy to react to you guys as well. Okay, so let's do a quick poll. I think one of my little slides comes up. So what I want to find out, let me just bring up my poll here. I've got two questions about ChatGPT. The first one is I want to find out your level. So the easiest way to think about level is how often you're using it. I think that's a good way of guiding it, because if I just said novice or intermediate, it might come down to sort of self-confidence. We're not measuring self-confidence, we're measuring how experienced you are with ChatGPT. Okay, that's cool. Quite a few people who've dabbled a little or use it weekly. I would love to know in the comments if you've got an ambition for it. Maybe, we're coming up to the end of year. Is there a sort of AI New Year's resolution? What do you want to learn? What do you want to do? Put that in the comments, because obviously, if you haven't worked out, I do lots of training events. So I'd love to, to think about that and maybe plan some training events around what people are keen to do. So I'm going to count down the poll because people are still voting. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you for that. And just to show you, you're not alone. Even the people who said, I've never used it, there's multiples of you as well. So quite a lot of you on this session are starting out. That reminds me to go slow, because I do have the capacity to get a bit excited and go a bit faster. And now the other question is, we've actually, the other question is pretty much the same. I'm going to ignore that. So that's cool. Oh, I've launched it. Let me just end that poll, so I don't need that one. Sorry. Okay, they're very similar, so we'll ignore that. Okay, so let's jump in and get started. We've done the poll and going live. So let me just show you what we're talking about here then. So in simple terms, ChatGPT, I'll drag this into view because I just wanted to show you, just to be really simple. There are some people who've never used it before. So here it is. This is ChatGPT. I've got a paid for version of it, and I will highlight any differences to it, but ignore that. Let me just ignore, if I can get rid of this, should be able to just go away because it's actually not part of ChatGPT. And I can ask anything. I can ask, obviously, what is the weather in Northamptonshire next 5 days? And it can either use its existing knowledge. I've asked it something about the future, so it will probably have to call into some sort of web service, maybe BBC Weather, Yahoo Weather, whatever is out there, and it will come up with something and give me what I need in quick succession. If I said finish this, well, firstly, my first tip for you, I don't know why I'm typing. You see me, I use voice a lot. I've got voice here on my keyboard. I've got a voice app called Whisper. But I can just use voice here as well. I can just dictate. I also have ChatGPT on my mobile phone, which is huge. So if any of you do have, my pitch to you, and I'm sure most of you would work this out, is if this was the 1970s and you were joining a bank and the bank has just said, we are rolling out computers, you got to think about imagine you're just starting out your career, you got to think about your future career. They might say, look, we want a group to go and learn how to use the computers, and we want a group to sort of keep everything rolling with the filing cabinets for now. Who's going to raise their hand and say, yeah, I'm happy to be taught computers? Clearly, that's sort of where we're at now, is a new step forward of a new advancement of the digital revolution is very much coming. We could argue, and we're not going to, about the speed and exactly what's going to happen, but in reality, we do know that AI is going to be part of everything we do in the business world, pretty much, and to a degree, personal life as well. So with that in mind, my advice to you would be, how do you get the skills you need? And my one overriding piece of advice would be download your preferred AI tool. If it's that this morning, we're talking about ChatGPT to your mobile phone. And instead of Googling, start using ChatGPT every day, all the time. The more you use it, the more you'll understand how to use it, how it works, the more you'll be comfortable with it, the more you'll be comfortable talking about it, etc., etc. So I use voice. The reason I use voice is because I can write a much longer, I can give it more context. So if I said, I need a job advert for a HR manager, we're a manufacturing company, we're based in Leicester. I don't want to list salary because we're not allowed to. For benefits, just write excellent benefits. And yeah, do your best and give me an advert that's 500 words. That's not that's not a very good prompt, by the way. If you think about it, there's still loads missing from this job advert that I really should have told it about what what I need and what I want. But it will do its best. So we're going to write better prompts than that, but at least you sort of see that I give it a bit of a go. And that essentially is ChatGPT. And away we go. We get a job advert. Okay. Interestingly, I can see things. It's remembered how I've asked it to write job adverts in the past. These headings are very much part of my standard default prompts that I use. So it's remembered these things, which is interesting. And we're going to get to memory a bit later on. But yeah, that's ChatGPT, obviously an amazing tool, far more advanced than Alexa. Alexa, we've just taught. I mean, Alexa launched in 2014. And Alexa, you could say, Alexa, skip that song, and it would do that. If you say, Alexa, go back 2 songs and play the song you played 2 songs ago, it can't do that. It will fail. If you say, play the song you just played, it will do it. So it knows really basic commands. And I remember when Alexa launched in 2014, some of you might remember this as well. If you got one, then it was mind-blowing. But it's now, as far as AI go or intelligence go, it's pretty stupid. This is really what we're talking about. November 2022 was the launch of ChatGPT 3.5. Most of you would have really started hearing about media stories around about February, March sort of time. That's when, it started becoming very mainstream, beyond simply just a bunch of geeks using it. And then we see it's grown and grown and grown to 800 million monthly active users. So that's about 1 in 10 people on the planet are using ChatGPT, and obviously there's other AI tools out there. Interestingly, ChatGPT is almost like the brand for AI, where there's a lot of market reports come out, headlines and stuff. Google just released Gemini 3, their latest version of AI, last week, which it's incredibly powerful, and probably more so than ChatGPT, and has taken a bit of a lead in this race. However, ChatGPT is one of their biggest strengths is actually that people just almost use it like the verb Google. Oh, you should Google that. It's like, oh, you're using ChatGPT. So everyone, just whether you're a comedian or whether you're a person on the news or talking about a subject, people writing a newspaper article, the chances are when they refer to AI, they refer to ChatGPT. But just because it's commonplace doesn't mean it's the best tool for you guys. And we are seeing more organizations perhaps move to Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, because Copilot. So I think a lot of users start out with ChatGPT independently. And we're going to talk about this in this next section now, when I'm trying to do something myself and no one's told me I can't use AI. And as the organization gets policies in place, then they start to say, we only want you to use these tools. And quite often then they might say Copilot because the organization's got a bit more control and visibility over that. Okay, anyway, ChatGPT pricing options. So you've got various options here. You've got free, you've got the paid for individual one, and then you've got team. We use team here in the business because there's benefits to it. We can sort of share things amongst us. We can build stuff. We'll do more of that in tomorrow's session, really. But I think ultimately, my question would be, most software, I would say, how much do you use it? Is it worth the investment? That's the normal rule of thumb. I think with AI, it's a case of, sorry, you have it, but you're not using it. That's madness. You should be just using it. You should be trying to, if you're not using it, it's down to you. You should be fully unlocking the potential of it, which is a journey. It's not, you can't just do it overnight. I appreciate that. But my point would be, I think almost every person on this session could get $25 a month value from ChatGPT or most of the other tools as well, Claude, Copilot, similar pricing, similar um, scenarios as well in regards to the main issue on the pricing is it's limited. So if you're on a free account, you might hit barriers and stuff around using the better AI. They all limit it in the same way. So my quick scenario is I'm not here to sell ChatGPT, but we see great value from it because we're using it all the time. And like I said, and that's once you start hitting limits, if you're using like the better models, then it will start downgrading you to the simpler model and say you've hit your limit now because you're on a free account. Yeah. Because obviously every time you ask a question or put a request in, it costs them money, which they're very well funded at the moment, but they need to make some money back at some point. And then feature-wise, prompting, that's obviously you putting questions into it, you telling it to do something. After you've got that initial prompt, you're following up. That's the continuation of that conversation. It's quite often the best way of reaching a resolution is refining, is asking it to think about, is asking, your first prompt might be to, I'm going to need a job advert for a HR manager in Leicestershire for a manufacturing company. Ask me some questions. What do you need to know from me in order to write a really good job advert? And then it asks you more questions and you see how it goes on. You can upload files. So you can upload a person spec in that example. We'll do that later on and get it to change it. You've got vision mode. You can upload an image. You should be doing that. That's really easy to do. And voice, as I mentioned, big fan of voice. And you can actually go voice output. You can just turn on ChatGPT. I did that the other day. I was working on a problem. I had a notepad in front of me. I just turned on voice and we just had a conversation about the problem. Give me ideas. How should I think about this? What's the best framework for it? That's really, and I would encourage you to explore as many of these types of things as possible. You might find them weird. You might find it weird having the AI talk back to you. I think that's perfectly understandable that it is weird. If one of your kids or your partner walks into the room, they might think you are weird. That's fine. In due course, this won't be weird. So maybe get comfortable being uncomfortable. And you can use it to generate images. You'll see there's images in today's session that I generated. In fact, I mentioned to you that AI is the ChatGPT is much stronger than Gemini's new model is much better than ChatGPT in certain areas. It's made a bit of a leap ahead. One of those areas is definitely around image generation. So I'll show you an example of that. So previously I could do this with, so I'll just minimize the chat. So yesterday I posted and used an image. I got ChatGPT I got Google Gemini, sorry, to generate these images. I gave it the text and it put it all on the board. Like 6 months ago, it couldn't do that. This is only released. ChatGPT has historically really struggled with images, putting the text into it. If you've tried it, it gets it wrong. And Google's jumped ahead on that now. It's even put the emojis in for me and everything. Took my image, put me into the image as well. So you can sort of see image generation is incredibly powerful at the moment. But many of you starting out, don't panic on this. Image generation, you can play with it a bit. You may not find the obvious use cases. In recruitment, I think the non-visual, the text-based stuff is probably where you're going to start out. Okay. And then memory. So what happens to ChatGPT? It remembers everything you've discussed in your chat, which is quite useful as well. And obviously it can use web search to sort of search up the weather and stuff like that. So when it launched in November 2022, if I'd have asked it what's the weather for the next 5 days, it would not have been able to do that because it could not search the internet and get the latest information. Now that's just a feature that they all have. Okay. And then long-term memory. So these are things, I'm going to go into ChatGPT and show you this live, yeah? You've got customization options in here, which are really important. So you've got these options here to reference your saved memories or record history. That's up to you because it means it's going to remember everything you put in there. So you might have stuff, there might be stuff you're putting in. If you're planning to murder a member of your family, you might not want it to remember all the instructions it's giving you. I don't know. I'm just trying to be flippant. But most of the time, memory helps. Like I showed you the example of advert when I said, just write me an advert. It remembered, it sort of worked out. Adrian, I think I remember how you like adverts written, and it sort of used some of that inclination rather than because I didn't give it enough instructions. So that memory is really key. And actually, if you give me a little second to make a little dalliance, there's a competition going on at the moment, obviously, between all the AI giants. So you've got OpenAI, which runs ChatGPT. You've got Google, which has Gemini. You've got Claude, Anthropic, which has Claude. You've got X.com, which has Grok, Elon's AI. They're all competing to be your chosen AI tool. Now, the winner, the last time we had this sort of competition was social media. Yeah. You had Facebook, MySpace, all these types of things. The winning feature that was unsurpassable, you couldn't defeat this champion. Once one provider got this feature, it just made everyone just move straight over to that model, was your social network. If your friends were on Facebook and your friends weren't on MySpace, regardless whether you love MySpace, you were on Facebook because that was where the conversation was going. You got far more value from being a member of Facebook than you did MySpace. Yeah. So there might be tools you actually work better for you as an individual, as a person outside of work or in work. The tool ultimately that you'll get the most from, though, is the one that has the greatest memory you've taught by just using, essentially, but also in the future, maybe by giving access to various things, like maybe your calendar and things like this. You have to get comfortable with all these things, by the way. Don't forget, when social media started, lots of people weren't comfortable putting pictures of their friends, family on the internet. Now, many, many more people are, but not everyone. So if you get comfortable sharing, memory and conversation, it will get better, because then when you say, I'm looking for a restaurant, or I'm looking to find a new ATS provider, it will know the size of company you are. It will know what HR system you're using. It will know these things, and therefore it will be able to build that into its search. It's like a personal assistant that's been with you for 3 years. The value of that personal assistant is all of those conversations and all of the learnings you've had. Yeah, you might find that you could hire another personal assistant that actually is technically better, but if they don't know you more, the change is gonna be an issue. Okay, so people have put some questions in. Debbie said, what about the negatives? Won't this put you at more risk of malware, virus, data theft, or ID theft? I'd want to know more about the risks if possible. We are going to cover risks, Debbie, yeah, as well. And yeah, that is, I suppose, a challenge. If people get access to this, they may be able to ask it questions. I guess that is an interesting way of thinking about it. I don't feel like, yeah, I don't feel like malware and virus could get too far. But obviously, if you've got a login for ChatGPT and it knows lots about you, and someone got your log and you gave your login to someone, I guess you could ask ChatGPT, tell me what I think about this. Tell me what it doesn't sound too obvious to me, but it might be possible. But so yeah, it's an interesting point. Kate said it'd be great to do some salary benchmarking. Yeah, I'll give you some ideas for that. And then Katie has also said, should we consider switching to ChatGPT Business? Do you use it? Is it useful? So if you use ChatGPT a lot, you'll just hit barriers. So when I look at it, $20 a month, I'm like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. I think if you use it a lot. However, if you're still in that realm where you're just using it a little bit, it's probably not worth it. But I would challenge most people to say you could use it more. You can get a lot more value, which is what today's all about. Moving from the conversation to the actual reel. And I'm going to get into this and show you the real stuff now in a second, because there's two parts to this. We've got the save memory options and you've got custom instructions. Custom instructions is where you can tell it how you want to answer questions. So for example, the obvious one here for me, like use UK English, do not use US English. Yeah. Okay, so let me just go into my friend. I've got the downloaded version on my desktop of ChatGPT, so you can obviously use it via your browser. So if I go into my settings, which are here, so I've got workspace settings, because obviously we have a team account, but I've got my actual settings for myself as well. So these will change because they're changing all the time. So to remind myself where this is. So I can have it. Where's my personalization? It'll be here on it. Yeah. So we've got personalization general. Let me just see. Where is Okay, connect to schedule data controls. Archive chat. Yeah, improve the model for everyone. That's turned off. So Debbie, I think you'll like this as well. So if I turn it, improve the model for everyone, be very aware of that phrase. What that means is anything you send into ChatGPT, it will use to train its model. Now, let me give you an example. If you're working on, if your organization has a fantastic, you've worked out how to, do really good email marketing in your sector. Let's say you sell widgets, yeah, and you've worked out how to do really good email marketing, and you've got it all documented, and you feed that into ChatGPT and say, I need some help with this, we're trying to improve this, but you give it your wonderful ideas. Someone down the road could say, I want to email market widgets. What could you recommend? And it won't say ABC company up the road do this. It won't like quote you for it, but it's a big, massive brain. And you've said, here's how we solve this problem. So if someone else comes along and says, I have this problem, it will has a variety of information it will use to provide an answer to that person. But your wonderful, amazing email marketing strategy could be given back to them. So just as a general rule for business, I think turn that off. It means you're not improving the model for everyone, but trust me, the model keeps improving. They keep finding new ways to improve it. You don't have to be helping them. You don't get any benefit from that, which is obviously a key thing as well. So that's something you can turn off. I wanted to see GPT profile build. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I'm not too worried about that. That's not too important to show you. I think the key thing would be personalization. So here we go. I've moved it around. So at the bottom here, you can get it to save your memories. Okay, if I hover over that, you can actually it's going to read the article more about memory FAQ. Haven't got time for that, but in simple ways, it remembers what you've said. I think in my mind, I think that's really important. But like I say, Debbie did raise that she's got some concerns on it, so that's perfectly fine too. You could hold off on that. And then the key bit, I think, is you've got like basic style and tone. You can sort of change these things. Custom instructions, you've got very specific things. So I tell it to be opinionated. Why? Because a lot of the time it comes down with, well, there are two ways of doing this, Adrian. You could do this, but there's also a good decision to do this. It's like, no, I want you to tell me what to do. And actually, the latest model is really good at now taking a stance and saying, given where you are, also because it knows my business. So given your business is doing this, this, and this, I think you're best to think about this would be the best option for you, but be mindful of this. I would always say that. Yeah. And I tell it who I am, give it my details, give it my contact details. I give it my salary, my expected salary, my job seeker details. This is because I do some stuff around job seeking, and I can show if it knows my expected salary, when it hits a form, it can start filling it in for me, but that's something for another day. Yeah, and then I've just got lots of things I'm telling it to do. Yeah, let me just, oh, that's my active job seeker bit. I will just show you my custom instructions. They're very simple. There's other things you can, I'll put that on the chat. There are other things you can put in there. So, but that's just a good idea. Yeah, and I give it my name as well. So when I go talking to it, it knows how to talk back to me. Okay, so that's interesting area. Let's leave that there. We are going to go live shortly. So custom instructions are really key. And it's now the new model 5.1, which was released about 2-3 weeks ago, is much better and actually following those instructions. So in the past, if you've said, don't use this phrase, don't use this, it sometimes still creeps in. You'll see now that that is much better if you're using 5.1, which we all have access to 5.1, but obviously if you're on the free account, you'll only have a certain amount of access, and then it will move you down to the more basic models. And then the other one I use all the time. This would be one of my, maybe for the advanced people, but I wouldn't limit that because it's quite simple. But I would run at least one deep research. If you set yourself a task, run at least one deep research task. And what I mean by that, you'd come along here, and deep research means it goes and thinks much longer. You can actually choose it to say, right, deep research. I'm trying to do this. Blah, 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 blah. It's really important. I'm trying to find the best provider. I need you to look at all the providers, think about them, this, and this. That sort of long task where you need someone to research something, go away and do that. It could be anything. It could be personal life. I'm looking at I was looking at American Express credit cards the other day. Wow, that's complicated, isn't it? They've got so many different variations. So I'm like, go away, look at it. These are the things that I'm interested in. These are the things I'm not. etc., etc. Bring it all back to me, and it will go away, do that. You can see it might think for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and away you go. So deep research, I'd massively encourage you to do that as well if you haven't done that. Yeah. Instead of just getting a quick answer, it's where it like goes off and does research, and it's fantastic for that. Okay. And then you've also got canvas mode, which you might touch into. It sort of becomes like over here on the right hand side, it will be showing you, like in this case, a job advert. Over here on the left, I can be giving it instructions, and it will just change. It will just change it on the right hand side. It's quite good. Canvas mode, I'd recommend for job advert copy, content, that sort of stuff. Right. So managing the risks. First up, do you have an AI policy? If you don't have an AI policy, there is one. We've got a template document which we can share with you. I think HR should be involved in this process because I don't think the IT department should just say this is how our staff should use AI. So we've got a document there. And if you read the document, it's only 2-3 page template document. It isn't that hard to understand necessarily, I don't think. And it gives you a nice starting point to sort of understand some of the issues that the IT department might be thinking about, how best to frame it. These are the tools we use. Even things within that document, it says, this is how we stand as an organization. This is our position on AI, which is really important. We believe AI should be used over here. We believe it should be used with caution. So the organization needs to set out what their position is. But it has some quite nice pieces to it. So I will share that with you. That's something you need to be thinking about, because what you don't want, I know we're talking about your skills today, but more broadly, if you're thinking about the team and the wider organization, you don't want people just going off using any AI solution. You want them using it in a certain way and certain tools. Yeah. Okay. So one of the benefit with ChatGPT Teams, but the other tools also have Teams accounts as well. But the benefit there is you can set controls organization-wide. So that memory thing I just said about, you could turn off the option about sharing your confidential information you might want to put into ChatGPT. You could say, well, do not train the model. Don't put this into your main database of memory and regurgitate it back to our competitors if they want to also do email marketing or something. You can set, so on a Teams account, and on things like Copilot, when you're using that, you can say, right, and the IT department sets those controls organization-wide, which is obviously really useful. And you can see who's using this. You can see you've invested in the accounts. You can see who's using it, which is useful. And you can sort of control usage. If anyone leaves, you can turn it off. And then the last bit I mentioned, what we're going to cover tomorrow, custom GPTs. With custom GPTs, you can sort of control a process. Let me just show you a custom GPT because I've got a few here. Person spec creator. Example interview guide creator. So here it is. If I say, I'd help you prepare an interview guide for hiring managers. So there's a bunch of instructions I've written in the back end. I will show you it. This is a bit advanced, so I'm just showing you the future, not what you need to be doing now. It's got all the instructions written there about how I want you to go through the process. And if a user comes along, if I say, let's get started, it will start asking me questions and guide me through that process. Yeah, this is what I need to start this process. I need to know this, this, and this, and then I'm going to be able to start drafting you an interview guide of the things you need to think about. So that's a custom GPT. So we've almost built a custom process. Okay, but this is beginner's guide to a ChatGPT, so we're not going to go too far down that. Just to say there is a benefit to it because you can, with a custom GPT, you can control that process more. Okay. Okay, so run through these and then we're going to get live into ChatGPT. So what are the use cases? The bits you've probably already done. It's in many cases. Content generation, the most obvious one is advert copy, but you can also look at it for career site content. You can also do report writing, email templates, policy creation. Yeah. Now, policy creation, you might be going, that the employee AI usage policy actually didn't come from ChatGPT, but I've got ChatGPT to look over it. Someone else shared a template with me. But you might go, why would I use ChatGPT to create a policy? Surely that's too risky. Well, you have to start a policy from somewhere. You can employ a law firm or an external consultant to write that policy, and that's perfectly fine if you've got the budget and everything else. Or alternatively, you can just work with that policy on ChatGPT and it will come up with the ideas, suggestions to you. It doesn't have to dictate everything. You can be the owner. The critical thing we have now, I see, the critical skill that individuals need to have in the new world we're moving towards is actually, critical thinking. The information is here. Here's all the information, Adrian. Here's the data. What do you want to do with it? What is the best decision to make here? That's going to be the powerful thing that we're going to be doing. Assessment creation. So you can ask it for interview questions. Here's the job spec. Here's the candidate. Here's the so-and-so. What sort of questions should I ask? Where are the gaps that in their ability to do this role that I need to zero in on? Ask it to create situational judgment tests. We'll do some of these. I've got some examples of these I can show you. In fact, let me show you the guide. This is the guide I'm going to be working on and be sharing with you. So within this guide, it is 38 pages long, but it's got all the prompts. So, and these prompts are not finished versions. We'll copy that. You will need to copy this, turn it into your own version, because the headings you use in your advert might not be what you'll be doing, what you'll need, how we reward you, what's next, because that might seem too informal for your tone of voice. Yeah. So this is just what we do, and you can just sort of borrow it. But there's lots of prompts in here for various. Look at that, situational judgment tests. So there's a prompt that will create you 5 situational judgment tests. You just need to change the part in yellow for each scenario, and away you go. Once again, though, here's a good example. If it knows your organization, if it knows you're a law firm that you've got, of this size, then you sort of see some of the information you put in, you might not have to put as much information in, and/or you might put a limited amount of information in, but it's just got a lot more background knowledge. So the situational judgment tests and everything else it produces is just closer to what you need, if that makes sense. So I'll be sharing that document. We are going to get live with that in a second. And research. So yeah, allows you to sort of, there we go, salary benchmarking. I think Katie asked about that. Competitor analysis. Like I say, have a look at their website, have a look at us, have a look at these companies. Where are we strong? What do you think an average customer might see as a pro or con between us? What is lacking on our website? Where might we not be appearing? And that could be a career site as well. Summarizing large reports, you get the idea. And then this one, I'm definitely an ideas person, but whenever I start something, and I always start with ChatGPT, a blank sheet of paper. So I've got a newsletter article to write for tomorrow. I'll be doing it later around AI, and I'll be saying, here's my idea, help me flush this out, and it will. Yeah. So idea generation. What we need to do is craft better prompts, sort out the good ideas from the bad. When we've got an answer, get imaginative from that. Oh, that said that. Oh, that triggers me to think about this. That's interesting. Maybe I could use that. That's where we want it to be. We want it to prod you and help you along, because at least for the time being, your brain is more impressive than ChatGPT. Yeah. So 20 examples of exploring different use cases in ChatGPT. I asked it for this and it gave me loads. So this actual section is obviously written by ChatGPT. It maybe gave me some other things I didn't think about. Maybe I forgot to think about salary benchmarking. I went, yes, let's add that in. Everything else, it's a know-it-all, has unlimited patience. Yeah, which obviously, if you've got young children, how many questions do they ask within a day? Unlimited patience is something that you've probably become aware of in the last few years. I know I did when my kids were young, that is actually something that we definitely don't have as humans, but ChatGPT does. You can just keep asking it questions. So now explain that to me again. No, I forgot that. No, go back for the third, it will be as pleasant as possible, help you through it, guide you through it, away you go. Yeah. And remember, if it can't do it today, and I use the example of my images, so I don't think ChatGPT could, where's my wonderful images gone? I don't think ChatGPT can actually do this today. Google Gemini can, but ChatGPT can't. In 3 or 6 months, I'm pretty sure ChatGPT will be able to deliver that, yeah, with all the text on the screen, because that's what it struggles with at the moment. So it is just keep advancing onwards. So stick with it. If something frustrates you, it'll probably get better. Okay, right, so let's get live, because that's the fun part to do. So let me know what you'd like me to do. Katie's mentioned about salary benchmarking. I don't know if there's salary benchmarking in the, I'm going to close down a few of these. I don't know if salary benchmarking is included in the guide. It might be, but let's bring up, this is the guide. Right, so yeah, let me just do a quick, what does it say? Salary, we've got, no, we haven't got salary benchmarking. So in simple terms, what I would do is salary benchmarking. It's pretty good. at doing, our agency team use it and tell me all the time because they know what the market's paying, but they might use it just to sort of clarify, like so if I said, can you tell me what the average salary is for a paralegal in the Manchester area? So let's run that as a search. And what I'll also do, I've got Perplexity here, which is another alternative AI solution. So let me just bring up a new search for this. We'll put the same thing in. We'll see what Perplexity tells me. And I'm not suggesting you should run all your searches via multiple things, but you can see where it's going to. It went to PayScale, it went to Indeed, it went to Reed. It's done a pretty good job of that. Now, this is interesting though, because if you'd have said to me, the really good salary benchmark companies, which I don't have a lot of experience with, they are basing their information, maybe like their ADP, because they're doing a lot of payroll, around what people are actually getting paid as in this case, a paralegal. Now, what the tools like ChatGPT, but also Indeed and Reed and others and Glassdoor, well, Glassdoor is different actually. What they're doing, Indeed and Reed, they're basing it on advertised vacancies, which is somewhat different. So tends to have a bit more of a range as well. So it just gives you a good guide. So I still think there's probably a gap. So if I was running a salary benchmarking company, I wouldn't be completely exposed by AI. There's other industries where their AI is, like if you're in translation, then anyone that does, sells translation services, I think the days of that business are somewhat numbered for the most part. But salary benchmarking, I still think they're able to offer value above and beyond. I think what the AI gives us is it gives us pretty good. It gets us sort of 80, 90% of the way there. Yeah. Hopefully that helps. Let me just see what my friend Perplexity said. Did Perplexity give us this answer? Let me just put it in again and stick with it. Oops. So, right. Come on, Perplexity, wake up. New chat. We'll just go new chat and go, right. If it doesn't do it this time, no, it's been very silly, right? I'm going to give up on Perplexity, right? Anyway, you get the idea. Salary benchmarking is okay, but what we want to get into is probably some of the more common use cases. Let's close that. Okay, so let me just, and if I go through the job advert one, I think the job advert one is a good example where a lot of people will start off, and it probably will show you the structure of how I do my prompts. Okay. So this one for me is slightly different because we might be creative with lots of different employers. It's almost like a recruitment consultant would do if they were trying to write one. So bear that in mind. You'll have to change it for yourselves. But please commit, and I'm converting advert copy into a more engaging copy. Yeah. Convert this job advert so that it's 350 to 450 words. Okay. Reason for that is the methodology that I believe in is short, engaging job adverts. Do not use overly long sentences. Use short paragraphs. That's really key for people reading on the internet. There's all the research done around that it should be really short. I could get more specific. I could say maximum 2 to 3 sentences, maximum 25 to 50 words per paragraph. That is really small paragraphs, by the way. It's not what your English teacher would have taught you, but actually it's what's shown to be the easiest way to read content and keep someone on the web page. So that is accepted science of reading on the internet. Use bullet points. Do not change the content for how the employer describes themselves. Do not change any content related to diversity, inclusion, or legal disclaimers. So that's a good example. There'll be stuff in your job advert that you might want to sort of make sure that it doesn't get messed with. If you've got a legal disclaimer there that someone's wrote on your advert to say, this is how we want to make sure we're asking for DBS. Everyone's going to have to undergo a DBS check for this role. It's for this specific reason. You don't want ChatGPT, changing a single comma on that sentence, really. In the same way, your marketing department might have a very specific way about how the organization should describe itself. You don't want that to get edited. So you should build that in. You should say, describe the employer is always described like this. Let's put it in like that. Yeah? Or You can get more complicated with it if you want. You could say, you could build out a big old, actually, I'll do the complicated stuff tomorrow. Let's not get too complicated. Sorry. Uh, okay. Where the same information is explained more than once, remove the explanation that is less helpful. Get rid of the duplication. Use only UK English. Use a friendly and formal tone. Bear in mind, formal tone means sort of friendly, informal business speak. If I told it to use an informal tone, because this is not just a B2B product, it's not a business product, consumers are using this. If I said use an informal tone, it might say, what's up, job seekers? I've got this, you can see I can't talk young people, but it might go really informal. Yeah. So friendly and formal tone, you might find that's not formal enough for your business. You have to work out what tone you want. If you do not have the information you need, do not try and add that content. Well, that means do not get imaginative. So if I don't give you the benefits, don't go, oh, I can see you're a London City law firm, so you probably offer A, B, and C. I'll add that in. It can do that. You need to be mindful of that. And it's got a call to action. Okay. Now, one other addition I would add to this, I'm going to drop it in and we're going to get a job spec. We'll just throw this in anyway. And one other addition I'll show you afterwards, which is quite key. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go and quickly download HR Manager job spec. There we go. I've got one that I always seem to keep downloading this document. Okay. So I've got a document, a PDF. I can now go and add that file. Bear with me. I'm just trying to save it. Can't see my actual screen. Got too many things open over here. Let me just quickly save this. And then it will be over here for me to download. Let's refresh those. Right. So I can upload a job spec to it, give it all this information. So yeah, but I think I'll show you afterwards now what I just got to wait for the file to upload and it's done. One of the nice things I think I'd want to know is what it's changed. Yeah, this is a new thing that is not in the guide, but you might want to bear this in mind. I might say, why am I typing? Sorry. Can you provide me a numbered list of the changes you've made to the person spec? In particular, can you provide me a list of the items that you've removed and any major other changes that you've made? I could ask for the reasons around it. Now, that's just sat there ready. When it completes its process, which it's really struggled with. Oh, right, it's followed my rules. Because it's a person spec, it didn't actually go ahead and create it because it's looking for a job advert, I think. Go ahead and convert the job specification, treat it like an advert, do your very best to follow my rules, but I do need your best first draft of this advert. I don't mind that actually. I think that's actually a benefit. The fact that it stops and checks, takes a second, I don't mind that. Now it's going to have a proper go at it. And when it's done that, I like the numbered list approach because when I get a numbered list, I can say, yeah, add back in number 4, the change you make in the following changes you make, I want you to undo. Because if it says I removed the following information, you've got it all in a numbered list. If you see items that you want put back into the advert, it's very easy to say 4, 7, and 11, put them back in. So if you haven't got a numbered list, you have to tell it what bullet point it's referring to, which is obviously much more painful. So it's writing code, it's doing a lot. So what you used to do, some of you might know, you used to choose the model and you'd maybe choose a fast model that would work faster or one that thinks further. Now what they're trying to do is actually based on the context of your question, how complicated it was, it will work out the best model to use. And I think at the moment it's probably using a complicated one, but I can choose answer now. I've never clicked this, but I presume what that does is just get it to just speed up, which is then failing. Okay, go again. Need advert ASAP. Fine. Okay, finally, it's given me a draft. And it's beyond autism, what you'll be doing, what you'll need. Okay. But obviously I've said, keep it nice and short. So it's probably taken some stuff out. So let's ask it for what it's taken out. and it will give it to me as a numbered list. So we really like that. We're building this into our ATS, and when it creates the advert for you, you'll be able to like change your instructions. We'll have default instructions there, you edit your instructions, but it will also be able to provide you a report of the changes it's made. So you can see that. And then it'll also have a report around inclusivity as well. So yeah, we can sort of go through the spec had headings. I moved these into, yeah, I used this strap line. Yeah, the spec contained no duties. I did not invent specific tasks. I summarized the type of work by the work implied criteria. Fine. Okay. Deduplication, multiple statements about senior HR work and independence under pressure and deadline management of time into a few sentences, but all ideas remained present. Okay, this is giving me a good, yeah, so I feel pretty good about that. That worked pretty well. Okay, let's take one other scenario because there's quite a lot in this guide, but I wanted to show you job advert creation because I wanted to show you the general structure. There is, right, so let me just go down to, let's do the situational judgment test. Yeah, we'll do the situational judgment test. So, and I'm actually just going to throw in this exact one. You can see the parts in yellow, which you can change. Okay. Now, I could just drop it below here, but probably not a good idea because it might be, you know, I'm talking about a HR manager role. Now I'm going to talk about a gym manager or something. Much safer to go to a new chat and it sort of wipes its memory, its short-term memory clean, really. You know, it'll only use its long-term memory if it feels like it has to. And it thinks I'm hireful, so it probably will see the gym stuff and think, well, just, yeah, that's not so relevant in this case. So we'll get 5 potential situational judgment tests. Yeah, and it comes through, right. So I've told it what the problems are. Gym is busy, change rooms have been refurbished, lots of new families moving to a new housing development opposite our gym. So it will give us sort of different tests based on these scenarios. We can work through the ones we like, the ones we don't like. I actually feel like assessments is a really interesting area for this area that people don't use. I think particularly people are struggling to assess candidates these days. You know, think about if you're one of the skills you're trying to define is, let's say, attention to detail, then it would be very easy to, you can think about that. Think about like, here's a person spec, create me a job advert, but put 4 errors into it. List me out the 4 known errors that you've put into it. Yeah. And then repeat that with another. And then you could easily, like someone coming into HR to work as a HR administrator, if attention detail is a key thing, you're actually giving them job adverts from your company with errors in them that are like pretty good errors. Or you can say, no, I don't like those errors, change to these errors. So you can sort of see any type of assessment, you can get some really good assessments built that you can give out to candidates. Now, there's a conversation to be had around the further problem, which is, you know, candidates can use ChatGPT and get past some of these assessments. And let's be honest, in many cases they will. There's lots of evidence showing how people are getting onto graduate management schemes because they got through university, a 2-1 or a first, but actually they may not have the skills to thrive. And they're like, the removal, the throwing them out, people getting removed from those programs through not being out of the level required is up in the last few years. And there's research around that. And part of that, I think, is because people are gaming university a little bit. Not everyone, obviously, but more and more to an extent. So, but you might decide to go back to paper-based, like bring someone in for interview and say, look, we've got an assessment phase. We're going to hand you some documents. Here's the job spec. Here's the advert. Want you to look, there's some the attention to detail. Are you happy with this advert? What, you know, can you spot any errors? Yeah. So things like that you can do. You can do situational judgment tests. You can get anything you want, you know, produced at high level. Yeah. As ever, you know, the key thing is the prompt. Now, the last thing I'm going to say, if you say, Adrian, I like your stuff, how do we improve this? Yeah. Better way to improve it. You can like, and I might have done this originally, but there's a service we'll use more tomorrow called meta prompting. And meta prompting is when you ask ChatGPT or any AI for the prompt you should use. Okay. So I need to create a situational judgment test. So in fact, I'm going to be creating quite a lot of them. I'll bear in mind, when I do voice, I waffle. but that's great because I give it loads and loads of context, which is a really good example of doing voice. Yeah. If you can use voice, you'll end up giving it far more information. You'll get a better result. Okay. So in fact, I'm going to crank quite a lot of them. So I really need a really good prompt that's going to help me or help my users to create really good situational judgments tests that are going to be robust, well thought through. Can you first off start by asking me a series of questions you might need to know, and then I want you to go ahead and create the prompt for me. That is probably, I think this is probably the most important thing I've shown you. First up, the two parts of this here is I'm going to use ChatGPT to help create the prompt, but I don't know what I don't know. So I'm going to even ask ChatGPT to like ask me the questions to help it produce a really good prompt. Because otherwise it would have probably just gone ahead and given it a go. Yeah. Sometimes it will actually stop and ask questions, but quite a lot of the time it'll just jump ahead. Questions I need to know. What is it for? Sections, development. Okay. So you can sort of see this with quite a lot. It's gone quite detailed as well. So the SJT will change over time. So you need to leave that open. And the same for roles. So actually the whole of section A would just need to be open. So we'll leave that. Let's do section B. What comp design scope? So I'm going to ignore section B. It's quite confusing for me. Section C, I'd like quite specific, and I'd like the typical problems that people might actually be facing, sort of more routine problems, common problems, popular problems that are fair. Okay. Yeah. What must be avoided? Yeah, avoid any controversial legal sensitivity. Yeah, avoid all of those. I want something nice and safe. Perspective could vary. That will vary on the role. So if there's a manager, I'd expect you to think about the perspective from the manager's role. Yeah, I'd also like multiple choice examples with like 4 or 5 options per scenario. Okay, you sort of get the general idea. I'm going to run that and it will give me the prompt. Yeah, or maybe it'll ask me some more questions. Yeah, this is key as well. It sort of tells it, this is context. So it's a good way to start a prompt with. Tell the AI what hat to wear. You're an expert workplace assessment designer. It's left these things open. It's come through and it's telling it what to do. Yeah, to write a really good situational judgment test. Okay. And it tells it the format it wants it to come out in the end. So do you think this is better than you could do? It's better than I could do. So meta prompting is the future, particularly getting it to ask you questions. So then you can do a really good meta prompt. Yeah. So if you want to be producing amazing prompts, that's the best way. My book is my little guide, good little starter for 10, but I think meta prompting is probably going to blow it out of the water and it'll allow you to keep it much more specific. Okay. So there's meta prompting. I've sort of touched on it in the notes. Ask for improvements. Yeah, that's a good one as well. I didn't say it, but review your last response and tell me how you might be able to improve it. Yeah, list out all the areas. You've wrote me a really good job advert. That's fantastic. If I asked you to improve this job advert, how would you do it? That's a nice trick as well. So I'm going to throw this out. We're just finishing up. If anyone wants a free 1-hour audit with me, it doesn't have to be 1 hour. It could be 30 minutes, whatever you're thinking. You're welcome to. The reason, we could discuss any of the following, or anything else around AI. Now, the reason this is important to me is we're doing a lot of stuff with AI, so it makes sense to it. You'll probably think, could I ask Adrian for an hour of his time? You absolutely can. What you're giving me is an hour of your time telling me how you're thinking about AI, the problems you're facing, internal conversations about rolling it out, whatever. That's really useful for me. Yeah. So if this is valuable for you, don't worry about my time. There is no follow. I don't charge. I'm not a consultant. I'm not trying to get you on a day rate the following week or something. It will just be a 1 hour. Can I help? Away we go. So let me know on that. That's a quick one, yes or no. I'm not seeing everyone say yes, which is good because if everyone said yes, I would have a problem. But people that want to have a conversation are getting some value, and that's cool. Right, so I'm going to shut that down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, brilliant. Thank you, guys. And that's pretty much the session. So I'll remind you what we've got coming up. So tomorrow we've got next level chat GPT. We're going to be doing custom GPTs. And then the following week, we've got advert copy. So we're doing lots of stuff around. So if you feel like you need to refresh how you write advert copies, think about it more inclusively, write more engaging advert copy. AI is built into all of those webinars, as it is most webinars, but it's obviously not focused on AI. And then if your organization is more co-pilot focused, which might be the case still, start of December, we do a beginner's guide to co-pilot, recruitment co-pilot, and then more advanced one as well. So check them out, all on our website. I can't believe I got through this on time. But thank you for sticking with us, guys. If you're leaving the session, it'd be great if you can give us a rating out of 10. I'd stay very focused on that. If you add a little comment, a bit of feedback, that's also really useful. We love that. We'd love to see that as well. And hopefully I'll see some of you tomorrow. And I'll send you, anyone who said yes to the AI audit call, then I will send you my link. And it's just up to you to book into my calendar at a convenient time. And I look forward to hopefully adding some value and chatting about AI. All right. Thanks a lot for your time, guys. Good luck with ChatGPT.